Hello guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome to another film review. Tonight I've got a special guest. We've got my lad, Lemon Lord. He's here tonight and we're reviewing a Takashi Kitano film called Violent Cop, which is in this set of Takashi films. This film, I believe, was a 1989 film actually. It's a late 80s film. And it's a sort of cop sort of thriller. Lemon will probably correct me because I get stuff wrong quite a bit. And it's sort of like it's based around just following Takashi on his sort of daily routines as a cop. But he's not like a normal cop. One, he walks everywhere. He doesn't seem to have a car. But he doesn't seem to play games by the rules. He's not afraid to give you a slap or a kick or a punch or anything like that. To get the information from you, and he pursues all these sort of like petty little crimes, and then he goes home to his. I think he lives with his sister, and he goes home to his sister, and she's got a friend there who happens to be in bed, and so he sort of takes him out and. So I'll show you where the bus is, and he sort of kicks and slaps him all the way to the bus stop, telling him he's got to marry his sister and all this sort of stuff, and it's sort of like it goes along all these sort of like crazy little stories, and then we see he gets like a new partner, a new cop partner who he doesn't really want to know anything about. He's quite sort of like ignores him and stuff like that, which is also quite funny. I mean, Takashi's really funny in this. He plays a character called Azuma, and he's really, really funny. What's it? Azuma. See, I told you. That's why he's here, you know. But yeah, I get everything wrong. So Azuma. Azuma. He gets everything wrong, and he's not afraid, like I said, to punch or kick or anyone. And then we sort of break to the harbour, as always in these sort of films, and there's a crime taking place with the drug dealers, and one of the guys gets stabbed. And as the story sort of carries on, when Azuma becomes like the lead sort of detective for the case, so he's walking around everywhere investigating everything, and he comes across that there's a police officer that's actually involved with this sort of drug dealing sort that are going on, and so he's trying to find out, but he's gone missing, and so they go looking for him. And then there's another dude, which is like one of the bad dudes, going around sort of beating up other sort of people and cops and stuff like this, and they're also pursuing him. There's a great sort of foot chase in the film, which seems to go on for about an hour, but it's probably about 5 minutes, but it's like a foot chase that goes on for a while. And eventually they catch up with him, and Takashi runs him over with a car. But back to the drug dealers, yeah, that they find that this cop, and eventually they find him, but he's dead. He's hanging from like a bridge, but we don't know if he's killed himself or he's been murdered. So then they investigate all down this sort of line, and again he's up to his normal sort of routine of slapping and punching and kicking everyone around to get the information he wants. And then the head boss of the sort of a criminal gang finds out, and this sort of sets out to try and get hold of Takashi to sort of get him killed. So the way they get to him is that they pick up his sister and they drug his sister, and then they start raping her and all this sort of thing, and obviously he's found out about it and he goes after him. And that's what I'm going to tell you. I'm not going to end what happens to it in the film, or does he catch up with him or anything like that. But that's a little synopsis of the film. And I loved it. I thought it was absolutely really, really cool. It's got a real dark sort of sense of humour in the background running through the film, which is quite funny. And so we watched it last night. And so, what did you think of it?
I quite enjoyed it. I like the sort of cop movies and stuff, and sort of like the hard-boiled cop sort of scenarios, especially because this film is very similar to another sort of like a Yakuza sort of police film called The Yakuza Graveyard. It's a similar type of cop who's in this who plays a similar role. Uh, but I found that the story was a little bit all over the place sometimes, because I just found it a little bit difficult to follow. Eventually things fell into place, but I did thoroughly enjoy it. I loved the music. It was very sort of uh,
Cheesy 80s.
like a very cheesy 80s sort of cop music.
Yeah, it's like a saxophone and that. Trying to copy things like Lethal Weapon and these sort of films like that. It's got like that cheesy sort of American sort of cop music playing over it, which was cool. Yeah, I hear where you come from. Yeah, the story was a bit everywhere, but I think I personally think it's because they're trying to show you his behaviour, that he treats everyone like that, you know, and he doesn't care if he's violent.
I did find it weird at the beginning of the film. He literally impedes someone's personal house just to slap a teenager because they beat him up, an old man with his friends.
Yeah, the film starts with this homeless guy who's got this weird smile. He's got no teeth, and he's like eating something. And these kids come along and start picking on him on the bike, and they torment him and sort of push him and kick him over. And then Takashi goes to one of the teenagers' house and goes upstairs and just sort of slaps him, and he starts crying like this. You know what I mean? But that's just showing that he doesn't care what age you are. You know, if you've broken the law, he'll come down on you. And he's very, very dry sort of sense of humour he's got in the film. It's very dry. It's very, very cool. I really enjoyed it. The pluses of this one, it looked okay. The transfer was not amazing, but it's okay. I can't remember which I'm surprised because it's on BFI label. They tend to take quite good care of their transfers. I'm not saying it looked horrible. It looked really nice, but I just think it just didn't have any sharpness about it. But I think that could be purposely because it's supposed to be a gritty sort of cop in Japan. And I just found it highly amusing how he just walks everywhere, and he didn't have a car or anything. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's really well acted. Takashi's fantastic in the film. The story is pretty good. It's got a very sort of a sort of drug cartel feel to it when you see the main boss. And the main boss, although he was looked like he walked into a wall. It's like his face was flat.
The only thing that was like had any curvature was his nose.
Yeah, but he was really quite. He left me a bit shivered, to be honest, when he made his first appearance. When he's questioning this guy about someone that he killed, he didn't have to. I was like, oh.
That's another thing I noticed in this film. They do a lot of staring.
Yeah.
They stare at each other like for a good minute, and then all of a sudden they just start talking to each other.
Yeah, there is a lot of that going on. Nobody blinks in the film. It is quite, you know, of it like that. But I think that's probably just the film sort of style, and it had a very sort of John Woo sort of feel to the film. It had a very sort of like, you know, action pack. I could see people like Quentin Tarantino really liking this. Sort of directors like that being influenced by this sort of film, because it had sort of like that dark humour over a very violent sort of film. It was quite violent. Gore, not too bad. There is some gore in it, a few headshots and stuff, and things like that. But you know, and it's got a bit of a sort of a, I don't know if it's anticlimactic ending.
It was a little bit of an anticlimactic.
Yeah, the lad didn't like the ending very much. But I just think, why did they do that? You know, there's no need to have done that. I think it would have been better if they would have done this sort of thing. So that the ending was a little disappointing in the film. But I'm going to score the film an amazing watch and give it 9 out of 10.
I unfortunately will have to give a different one from my dad's. I would say probably an 8 out of 10. Simply because, if anything, what threw me off was just the story. But I loved everything else about it.
Yeah, the film's full of atmosphere. You do get the sense that you're in sort of 1980s Japan.
Yeah.
Because when they go into the nightclub, you've got the silly music playing, and and all the sort of, they're all wearing the suits with the jackets, sleeves rolled up there, like the 80s style, with the American style sort of haircuts, all blow drying back and stuff like this. It's very 80s in its look, but I liked it because I found it quite gritty. I think it is of its time. It hasn't aged amazingly
No.
in a sense of like, and I think that's one of the problems, is that a lot of stories now are a lot more sort of,
Story like line where it's just like based on one thing.
yeah, but they're very quite in depth. And this isn't.
No.
The main story just sort of piddles into the film out of nowhere, and then it sort of like ends with like the ending. There was no real massive build up or investigation.
Yeah, that's another thing, because when it started, throughout the whole film, it was essentially going from one place to another, and then the main story of the film just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
As-
But I suppose, though, that's how a policeman's day is.
Yeah, I suppose.
It's random
Yeah.
stuff just happens. They found the body on the harbour, and that's how things happen. Really enjoyed it. Anyway, no, I won't do that. So anyway, I'd like to thank Lemon Law for joining in. I told you he might come in one of these Takashi films because he loves Japanese cinema. He's like
I
me.
do.
I love Japanese cinema. Like I said, I'm not a massive fan of J-horror. It's only because I find them so samey. No matter what you're watching, The Ring, Grudge, Dark Waters, they're all quite the same. And they all got the same feel to it. Whereas a lot of Japanese cinema, like crime or samurai films, they've all got like a different sort of feel to it. Although samurai films do have a slight Western feel to them. They are like the Japanese version of the Western, really.
Western spaghetti.
Except the Americans, Westerns, cowboys have guns, and they've got katana swords. But anyway, we both love Japanese cinema, and we love watching this. Anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Stay tuned for some more. Look after yourselves.
Look after one another.
And I really hope I'll see you all soon.